Congresswoman, good morning. How are you?
Good. I'm great. Good morning.
Good morning. You, I guess, got an earful yesterday. You were talking with folks about Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, mostly Medicare and Social Security. Can you go, in a state like West Virginia, can you go out and can you sell significant changes to Medicare and Social Security? And if so, how do you do it?
Well, I can sell the fact that we want to keep Medicare sustainable, and not just for seniors, but for generations behind us, children and grandchildren. So basically, what I said was, if following along, if you're 55 and older, there'll be no changes. Medicare is going to be there presently as you absolutely know it. But my bottom line is, if we don't make any changes, Medicare can't sustain. So there have to be changes. There have to be reforms. Now, then it becomes what type of reforms. Even if you look at the President's Affordable Care Act, $700 billion cuts to Medicare, that's a change to Medicare. If you look at what was in the House budget, where there's a voucher system in there for seniors to be able to,
right.
Upcoming seniors to be able to have a choice, well, that's a change. So my deal is, if we don't make a reform and a change, we can't sustain this. And people understand that part of it.
Do they? I mean,
once you reassure them that you're not, but I don't think people really believe it, though. That's the problem. That
don't believe what?
Don't believe that there's going to be no change for them, seniors. The worst thing for a senior, I think, is to have the fear that there is going to be a change, and convincing them that there won't be, and that we're not going to pull the rug out from you no matter what party was in and what president's in, is really the difficult lift because of all the rhetoric of the campaign.
Yeah, well, yeah, but that is what you have to do. Getting back now, you supported the Ryan budget, and I know that Romney's plan is not Ryan's budget. There's been a lot of parsing out about that. But Ryan's budget, and people have talked about the fact that the president's plan does reduce the rate of growth in Medicare by over $700 billion, and it takes that money, if those savings are there, and puts it toward the Affordable Health Care Act for other spending. The Ryan budget also reduces a similar amount in Medicare spending. So is there really a significant difference between what Ryan talked about, what Ryan proposed in his budget that you supported, and what the president's done?
Well, I think it's an acknowledgement in both that Medicare moving forward in the same way is unsustainable. But if you look at into the details of what the president wants to do, he's double counting money. He's counting Medicare on the right hand, and then he's using it to pay for affordable care on the other hand. In terms of the budget, this is the way I see what's referred to as the Ryan budget, which I did vote for. We've got to make a change here in our behavior. We've got to make a change in the way we look at solving our problems. And I think that's the bottom line of the Ryan/House budget. Would it ever go through in the form and details that it's been laid out? Absolutely not. But the function of government is for us to live within our means, and we haven't been doing it. And to do it, we're going to have to make systemic changes.
Congresswoman Shelley Capito is with us, Republican from the 2nd District. The way Medicare works now, it's a fee-for-service system. You go get a service that's approved by the government. The government pays a fee for that, which is predetermined, and that's what it is. There's really no cost controls in there. The way the president wants to approach it is, government will get control of this through this 15-member panel, and they're going to kind of get cost control that way. The Ryan idea, and thus I think the Romney idea too, is that if you're 54 and younger, you have an option of getting a government voucher for whatever it roughly costs to buy insurance, and then you would buy insurance on the private market. How do you know, or why do you believe that market forces would control costs in a way that the 15-member panel or the government control would not? I know that's a convoluted thing, but I don't know any way else to explain it and ask the question.
Well, I believe that what we're trying to get is individuals to be able to make their own choices, and rather than have the government make choices. So I'll use this as an example. The Medicare prescription drug coverage that was passed in, I believe, 2003, which I voted for and worked on. Seniors opt into a plan once a year. They can just roll over into the same plan if they want, or they can look at it in more detail if they want. But they have a choice. The projected expenditures for that particular benefit the expenditures were way higher than what the actual reality of the cost has been. And that's because I believe of the market forces of having more than one person pay, and also the personal responsibility of the senior actually looking to see what choices they want to make. But I will say this, in the seniors meeting that I had yesterday, I had a gentleman who was pretty stirred up, and he was saying to me, I don't want a choice. Don't make me choose. Don't tell me I have to have a choice when I don't want a choice. And there are probably a lot of seniors like that. So their choice would be, under the Ryan plan, if it ever went into effect, and the Romney plan would be to stay in traditional fee-for-service.
You can stay in it. You can stay in it.
Yeah, you can stay in it. So it's really dispelling the myths and the scare tactics of a one-sentence, 30-second soundbite of changing Medicare as we know it. If we do not change Medicare as we know it, it won't be there for children and grandchildren. It's just on a trajectory to bust the budget.
Right, absolutely. Congresswoman Shelley Capito is with us, Republican 2nd District. This gets back to your meeting yesterday and the conversations you have with constituents, with voters. Do you honestly believe that and right now I think we're talking at a reasonably high level about how this would work, do you think that we really want to have that conversation, or do you think and do you think that will happen in this campaign, or is it just going to end up being about Obama is a socialist, or he's a Muslim, or that Ryan throws grandma off the cliffs? I mean, how's this thing going to unfold, or can we have the conversation?
Well, I think we can have the conversation, absolutely. But it's like any difficult conversation you have in a family. Sometimes you just want to avoid it. And I think there's probably a lot of people in the country who don't want to engage in this because it's difficult to understand, it's tough choices and all that. My hope in the campaign is that we talk about the president has, he's a nice guy, but he doesn't have the gear. He's not getting it done. We've got 8.3% unemployment. We've got no leadership from the White House in terms of how to get out of this. To me, that's the issue. And I hope that's the issue that we talk about. And then if he wants to defend that, show me your plan. And then the same with Romney. I think he has a vision. He has a track record of making things profitable and getting people to work. So let's talk about that. But it's not exciting in the media to not talk about how much gel you have in your hair or whether your hair's turning gray while you're president. I mean, we've probably had a lot of ink on those two subjects, and let's get over those kinds of things.
On that, again, back to specifics. One of the issues that comes up is with the Romney plan or the Ryan plan, I think primarily with the Romney plan, is that if you're going to lower taxes, and Romney says he will lower taxes, and to make up for he thinks that will propel economic growth, but to make up for any lost revenue, he's going to get rid of loopholes and carve-outs and those kinds of things. But he's not saying what they are, and he's really being hammered by his opponents on that. Do you believe it is Romney's responsibility? Should the candidate come out and say, these are the loopholes I'm going to close, these are the deductions I'm going to take out, these are the specifics I'm going to do? Or do you try to ride that out politically till after the election?
I think if I was advising him, I would probably throw out my top 5 and say these definitely are on the chopping block. I don't see any downside to that. There's at least probably 5 or 10, that you could go to easily that are going to be very acceptable and look like the corporate welfare that they are. So I don't understand why they wouldn't go specifically to that. I don't think you have to outline the entire plan, because I think people understand until you get all the way into it, you're not going to really be able to determine what your specific details are down to the nth degree. But, the problem with, I suppose, why they're not doing it is because as soon as you raise your head up, you get one of those hammers like in the carnival that just, what do you call that?
Whack-a-mole. That's whack-a-mole, yeah. Well, yeah. Like for example, if you said, which maybe should be on the table for serious, getting rid of the home mortgage deduction. I'm not saying we should, but if you're going to put everything on the table, now that would be a wildfire. Maybe we have to do it, but you know how that would go.
Well, I mean, there might be other ways to formulate that kind of exemption. Maybe exempt homes, or people who are buying homes of $500,000 or more. So I think there's you don't have to be an all or nothing on that, and that might be something that's a lot of money and that could be useful, I think.
Now, Congresswoman Shelley Capito is with us. Now that I've gone highbrow, let me bait you with something, okay?
All right.
Congressman Nick Rahall from the 3rd Congressional District, Democrat, issued a release yesterday saying this: not surprisingly, there are some members of Congress who are fanatical about slashing spending without regard to the effects on working middle-class families and the economy. You might have heard of one of them because he was just picked this past weekend to be the Republican vice presidential candidate. He's a leader of the Republican PAC that has set its sights on privatizing Social Security as well as Medicare, ending the traditional programs that working West Virginians would spend a lifetime paying into. These are the same people crying crocodile tears about deficits while pushing for trillions of dollars of new tax breaks and giveaways from millionaires and multinational conglomerates, said Congressman Rahall. Are you one of those? Are you a fanatic?
I don't think I'm a fanatic at all, and I think that's a very nice talking points press release. I mean, you can go to the DNC and get probably 2/3 of that. And, not that I haven't done that myself, but I think that's electioneering. And, I think Paul Ryan is known to be a serious student of the budget. He's known to be sincere in his efforts. He's known to talk to the other side. It's hard for Chris Van Hollen, who's his counterpart on the Budget Committee, to get up there and say anything that doesn't say they don't have a good dialogue and they're not reaching across the aisle. Now, whether he accepts ideas or another thing, maybe that's a legitimate. But I don't think Paul Ryan has this fanatic label attached to him. They may try to attach it, but it won't work.
Congresswoman Shelley Capito, Republican 2nd District. Good to talk to you. Thank you so much.